Welcome to our channel, where every star tells a story. Ever pondered the true strength hidden within humanity's fleeting existence? Let's get into the story. The Voltrix envoy exuded superiority as they entered the human delegation's chamber, their iridescent tails flicking languidly and a faint hum of condescension beneath their telepathic greetings. Humans couldn't decipher their thought speech, but the subtext was clear. We were seen as short-lived and fragile compared to their enduring civilization. Most days, I let their barbs slide, knowing it was an attempt to establish dominance before negotiations. We usually countered with good-natured boasts about human ingenuity and adaptability. But today was different. My blood simmered as Ambassador Richards hissed, "Voltrix Prime," addressing the nearest approximation of their leader, "Splendid to see you." "And might I inquire," he paused, amused, "who is this delightful child?" Every human eye turned to me. Straightened my uniform, my medals gleaming despite their age, and strolled confidently towards the Voltrix delegation with a cocky grin. "Prime," I retorted, "this child is older than your most ancient philosopher's stones." Their clicking faltered into silence. While Voltrix boasted lifespans of millennia, humans were relative youngsters, rarely making it to a century. Yet, even our oldest looked youthful compared to these aliens. "Ambassador," I continued, relishing their unease. "This is Gramps," placing a proud hand on my chest, "the oldest human alive." A ripple of disbelief washed through the Voltrix, evident in their frantic thought speech. They focused on me not with pity, but with a hint of unease. The concept of extended human life was alien to them. Despite the lines on my face, they sensed the vitality within me. "This can't be," Prime sputtered. "Humans are ephemeral. Your bodies are ill-equipped for long life." "Maybe," I shrugged, cutting them off, enjoying their discomposure. But then, Voltrix Prime, we humans weren't designed to linger. Our bodies might be fragile, but they're fueled by something you find perplexing: spirit. "Spirit," one envoy scoffed. "Quaint." My smile widened, the lines around my eyes deepening. "Perhaps. But you see, Prime, we burn bright. We don't measure our lives by the tick of a clock, but by experience and adventure." I noticed the Volric delegation stiffen at the mention of sacrifice. They might see it as primitive, but the notion of adventure resonated with them. Their history is one of careful, measured expansion, unlike humanity's bold leaps into the stars centuries ago. I lowered my voice conspiratorially, explaining that we had cracked the code on nanites and regeneration tech. We could have extended our lives like the Volric, living slowly and safely for millennia. "But why didn't you?" Prime asked, their clicking intensifying. I sighed, weariness in my voice. "Because, Prime, it's not about how long you live, but how you live it. We tried extending life without extending the essence of life itself, leading to bored, unchallenged people clinging to a meaningless existence." I gestured to the eager young humans around us, their faces full of ambition and restlessness. "These folks have fire in them. They need to prove themselves and make a difference before their time runs out." "That breeds innovation," I declared, holding their gaze. "We solved interstellar travel during a desperate war with young engineers working against the clock. We fight devastating plagues because our short lives force us to act swiftly and take risks. In our art," I pointed to a vibrant mural, "is driven by the passion of knowing each stroke might be the last." A murmur rippled through the Volric delegation. They could debate the merits of rapid innovation driven by mortality, but they couldn't deny the brilliance in our technology and culture. "Sacrifice," I said softly, my gaze shifting to a window overlooking a bustling spaceport, reminded me of those who burned out too quickly but lit paths across galaxies. Each day matters when they're few. We lay down our days willingly for those who come after. Silence filled the chamber as I revealed our philosophy to the Volric. Prime's form shimmered with subtle color shifts, their thought form swirling. Finally, Prime admitted, "Ambassador Gramps, this is unexpected. Our remarks were born out of ignorance." I breathed a sigh of relief. This might not bring instant intergalactic understanding, but it planted a seed of recognition that the mayflies of the galaxy had their own wisdom. "Apology accepted, Prime," I replied, offering a hand. Prime's tendril-like appendage hesitantly clasped my fingers. Now, shall we talk trade? I hear those minerals from your asteroid belt are quite something. Ulrich buzzed in agreement, and just like that, a new dialogue began. Business resumed, but beneath the usual haggling, there was a new undercurrent. I locked eyes with Prime once more, sensing a shift. The pity and arrogance were gone, replaced by cautious curiosity. What began with insults had transformed. They now saw us not as fleeting curiosities, but as equals. They recognized the strength in our short, fierce lives, and, perhaps, felt a flicker of envy for the fire that burned brightly, if briefly, in the human soul. The negotiations were challenging. Centuries of galactic habits don't change overnight. The Volric often slipped back into patronizing tones, assuming humans would be desperate for any deal. Yet, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders as I saw a newfound steel in our diplomats, a subtle shift in their posture. It took days of wrangling before finalizing the treaty, a testament to the cultural gaps we still needed to bridge. In moments of respite, whispers held true. I was treated with a reverence I hadn't known before. No longer just the curious geriatric, I was now Gramps, a living bridge between humanity's bold present and its hidden past. Young technicians, usually engrossed in their projects, paused outside my quarters, offering heroic glances. Even the Volric, despite their stoicism, directed respectful nods my way. This new role was a strange burden. I was more symbol than man, an artifact of those early tumultuous centuries filled with war, breakthroughs, and wild heroism. There were days I stared into the mirror, almost a stranger to the face reflected there. I looked 20 thanks to rejuvenation miracles, yet lifetimes were written in my eyes. Gramps, my door chimed. The hesitant voice belonged to Inin Mara, one of the brighter cadets on the negotiation team. She stood at my doorstep, twisting her fingers and averting her gaze, stirring a familiar knot of nerves in my gut. "Come in," I beckoned, my tone grandfatherly. Mara entered warily, as if treading on hallowed ground. Her awe made me chuckle, easing the tension. "What brings you here?" I asked, motioning to the Spartan armchair facing mine. I wanted to ask," she stammered, her cheeks flushing under the weight of her question, "about those days before we had the tech, before the treaties. What was it like?" I eased into my chair, a pang of bittersweet nostalgia filling my chest. This was why I agreed to all this. Gramps' persona wasn't for the Vree's belated regard, but for moments like this, to pass down the flame and ensure those who came after understood the desperate struggles that forged their comfortable present. "It was messy, Mara," I began, the words spilling out like old confessions. "Chaotic. We were scrambling, always one step behind, making things up as we went. Wars, plagues, old planets winking out under alien invasions. But damn if it wasn't glorious too." Her eyes grew wide, hungry for those ancient tales. Youth born into an era of relative galactic stability often had trouble imagining the chaos humanity had endured. "We fought," I said, my voice deepening, echoing battles fought on starship bridges and in muddy trenches of forgotten colonies. "We schemed, took wild gambles, dared to dream of the impossible. Every day was a roll of the dice, every sunrise a victory in itself." Mara leaned forward, enraptured by the tales of heroes. As I shared tales of harrowing escapes and fierce battles, Mara was captivated. I spoke of engineers turned soldiers piloting broken-down mechs, asteroid miners retrofitting their ships to take down alien cruisers, and ordinary people defending their homes with astonishing ferocity. Her eyes shone with a fervor I hadn't seen in her generation, understanding resilience and hardship, yet also sensing the raw courage born of desperation in my stories. I noticed the change in her demeanor, a spark ignited within her. "But you see, Mara," I said softly, feeling the weight of centuries settle on me, "desperation is a powerful force but unstable. We were on the brink of annihilation. If we hadn't found a way to extend life and build stability, you might not be here listening to an old man ramble." She nodded, absorbing the brutal truth beneath the heroic gloss that history often lacks. It was never a choice between long lives and meaningful ones. Our scientists, those brilliant souls, work tirelessly not just to extend life, but to make those extra years worth living, I continued, gesturing around my Spartan quarters. Do I miss luxury? Of course. But witnessing humanity rise from the ashes, feeling that unity and shared purpose, there's no pleasure or lifespan long enough that compares to that. We sat in silence, Mara processing the lessons while I was lost in my memories. The galaxy outside was orderly now, with stable alliances and trade routes. It was a good, safe life, but the fire crackled a little lower. I couldn't deny it. Thank you, Gramps, Mara finally spoke, breaking the quiet. I needed to hear this. She stood, a new determination in her posture. As she reached the door, she paused and grinned over her shoulder. You know, it ain't so bad being a mayfly. Her laughter echoed as she left, bringing a genuine smile to my lips. Her bravado, tinged with deeper understanding, was a testament to my legacy, the embodiment of all humanity had built. As the door slid shut, I turned toward my window, watching the bustling spaceport below. Shuttles took off, and cargo vessels were loaded, a testament to the stability we had fought for. Despite a touch of melancholy for the thrill of uncertain days, a different pride replaced the wistfulness. I was Gramps, an echo of the past and a symbol, but the true fire of humanity burned out there in the everyday life of engineers pushing boundaries, diplomats forging connections, and countless ordinary people daring to make a difference. The negotiations wrapped up days later, a minor victory in the grand scheme of the galaxy. As I watched the Volric delegation depart, their clicking less condescending and their forms held a bit straighter, I felt a deeper sense of accomplishment. We had earned their respect. In the weeks that followed, I made an effort to be more present, sharing stories with the young folk. There were fireside chats in the recreation zones, history lessons more immediate than textbooks, and even the odd sparring session to show that this old body still had surprises. It was tiring to relive the losses alongside the victories, but seeing faces light up with understanding and respect made it worthwhile. I was not a starry-eyed admiral or a brilliant inventor. I was Gramps, the keeper of the flame, a reminder that even in an age of peace and longevity, the human spirit dared to burn a little brighter. Years turned into decades, and I watched cadets become commanders and diplomats rise to interstellar prominence. The fire I stoked burned within them as they shaped the galaxy. There were moments of quiet pride, a new technology inspired by an old war story, a peace treaty brokered with tactics learned in the trenches of my memory, and days of quiet sorrow as those I'd known faded, succumbing to time even as my rejuvenated body held strong. But Gramps remained, no longer just a man but a legend, a cautionary tale of the path not taken, a reminder that the true strength of humanity lay in something far less tangible. Occasionally, a new alien race would enter the galactic scene, drawn to our stability. I would be trotted out as the token ancient human, a curiosity for diplomats to behold. They would listen politely to my old tales, marveling at our spirit and puzzling over our choices. Inevitably, before departing, they would ask, why, with the ability to extend life? Why do you choose to live in such haste? They would ask, curious about our rapid lives. My answer never varied, but my understanding deepened with each passing century. Because, old friend, time slips through your fingers if you don't hold it tight. And holding it tight means truly living, taking risks, loving fiercely, and leaving your mark. We humans may have shorter lifespans now, but each year holds a lifetime within it. Some nodded politely, perplexed, but in others I saw a flicker of longing, perhaps even pity, not for our fragility, but for the slow, measured lives they led, devoid of our chaotic brilliance. Gramps persisted long after I stopped recognizing the boy I once was. The symbol grew stronger, a reminder that even with stability and countless tomorrows, the brightest flames often burn the quickest. Centuries blurred as I witnessed empires rise and fall, and technology advance at a mind-boggling pace. The universe became more interconnected yet fractured. Through it all, Gramps endured, a constant amidst the maelstrom of progress. No longer a relic, I became a paradox. While technology extended human lifespans to what poets once deemed immortality, I remained an outlier, the man who could have had millennia but chose not to. The reasons blurred over time, from the fiery souls lost in early wars to quiet triumphs in borrowed decades. Sharp memories faded to echoes, but a profound understanding remained, a life measured in centuries risks complacency. As humanity hurtled through time, I stayed a fixture. I taught at academies, not as a professor, but as a living history lesson. My stories lost their dramatic flair, becoming cautionary tales of paths not to repeat. The urgency of survival dulled into strategic calculations. Yet, the restless ones, the innovators with dangerous sparks in their eyes, still came to me. I saw echoes of my younger self in them, young and hungry. I fulfilled my purpose by spinning wild yarns, not for entertainment, but to fan the embers of something rare and essential, something easily extinguished in the cold logic of a long, safe life. The galaxy and humanity were changing, and I felt a pang in my ageless chest. Were we becoming too civilized, too cautious? Would old stories of desperate courage seem like myths to future generations? Peace and stability had been hard-won prizes, not to be casually tossed aside for abstract ideals. One starry evening, alone in my quarters, I remembered an old conversation with Mara. It ain't so bad being a mayfly. A smile bloomed on my face. Indeed, it wasn't. To live fast, love hard, and leave a blazing legacy behind that was the essence of humanity, a fire needing constant stoking. As long as Gramps existed, that fire would never truly die.